everybody. It is hardest part of the ring here with another episode of the Apron Bump Podcast. Hoo-wee! Your podcast for wrestling commentary, wrestling news, but also, apparently, I'm just a wrestling, not Negrodamus. I only know the Chappelle Show version. Fuck, what's it called when you, tell the future? That guy that tells the future. Nostradamus. Not Negrodamus. Nostradamus. I am your wrestling Nostradamus. Why is that hardest part of the ring? I'll tell you. Because last week, in my episode that was recorded prior to Raw, I basically laid out to you the whole Randy Orton, fake retirement angle, whatever you want to call it. I don't know why everybody was so surprised, honestly. The storyline was that his knee was injured. I mean, there was just a litany of reasons not to believe that he was retiring. First of all, a leg injury is not, if you get a leg injury, you can get some pretty gnarly leg injuries, but you're not going to know in a 24-hour window that you're going to have to retire from your sport. That's just not how it happens. It didn't happen to Edge. Edge, it took months for him to figure out that his injury was going to force him to retire. Same thing with Daniel Bryan. Paige was pretty quick, but it wasn't a day. It was a while before she learned that she had to retire. So you're telling me that fucking Randy Orton tweaks his knee at a house show, and then less than a day later, he has to throw away his whole career? Not only that, but you're watching Raw last week, right? And they weren't, they didn't build it. When Randy Orton retires, that is going to be a main event send-off. That's going to be Ric Flair retiring worthy. Or at least, Daniel Bryan worthy. It's going to be like that. It's not going to be this thing where they don't mention it until, when was it, hour 2 when he did his little promo. They literally didn't mention it until, the commercial break right before it. You really think they're just not going to build to that shit? I mean, granted, Randy did a pretty good job with this promo, but it was a little much. He was having, he was just struggling a little too much getting in the ring, you know what I mean? But, they did what they did. They did, literally go back to the last episode, and I lay it out almost exactly. Down to the fact that he comes out in crutches, and then he, lures AJ in and pounces on him when he doesn't expect it. I laid it all out for you, so pay close attention to this episode, because I'm recording this also before, or I guess Raw, as I'm recording this, Raw is happening, but I don't anticipate anything too major happening tonight. But if there's anything super crazy happening, or super crazy returns, then I will, throw up another episode and talk about those major happenings if they do happen. If not, they'll just be on whenever my next episode is, so you're welcome, Negrodamus. Before we kind of go through the week, this past week in wrestling, just a few quick notes. One, I have not finished Wrestle Kingdom yet. I have finished night 1, but I'll wait until I'm finished with both nights to give my full review of those shows. And when I say full review, I mean most of the matches I'll review. So Wrestle Kingdom review is coming. Also be, in the next few days, be on the lookout for my NXT UK binge podcast, where basically I'm going through about 2 months of episodes. I'm not going to go into huge detail in every episode. I'm going to try to keep that podcast to an hour and a half, but or maybe 2-parted. I don't know. We'll see how willy-nilly I go in those things. But so yeah, we got a Wrestle Kingdom podcast coming up soon. Got a UK podcast coming up soon, and of course I'll be reviewing the NXT UK Takeover Blackpool pay-per-view that is happening this Sunday, I believe. So keep a lookout for that. And yeah, as far as this past week goes, I mean, I gotta. If there's any one highlight, if there's one thing that we have to talk about, it is that goddamn Bobby Lashley Lana wedding. Bar none, best wrestling wedding I've ever seen. Maybe not best, but it's probably the one I enjoyed the most. It was just a utter train wreck in the best way possible. And the fact that what made it so great is that there were a lot of things that they did that made it entertaining that weren't even intended. Like, for example, the wedding starts, right? And you have the priest in the ring with the microphone, the whole deal. And then he introduces Bobby Lashley as the Almighty. And then Bobby Lashley walks out wearing a vest with no shirt, coming down the aisle for his wedding with his entrance music, being introduced with his nickname. Shit, dog, I want to be called the Almighty at my wedding. Is that a thing that can happen? Apparently it's a thing that can happen. Could I have badass entrance music as I walk down the aisle wearing no shirt? I think that's the dream. If that's not goals, I don't know what is. But yeah, you have Bobby Lashley with his over dramatic entrance. And then, speaking of Bobby, probably one of the low key funniest parts of the whole thing was when they're doing the whole gimmick where the priest, or the whatever they call him, the pastor priest, he's basically reading the vows, and all they got to do is repeat what he's saying. And then Bobby just at one point just completely fucks it up. I forget what exactly it was. It was the whole to cherish. It was it was kind of a long thing to remember and then regurgitate, and Bobby got 30% of it. And I mean, you have that. You have Lana's makeup rubbing off, or Bobby's rubbing off on her. I'm still kind of confused at what happened there, but she had this fucking big brown smudge in the middle of her forehead. I mean, her makeup, just in general, originally it looked awful. She looked like a goddamn China doll. And I don't even think it was bad on purpose. I think she actually thought that looked good, but it did not. It looked very, very tacky. But then you have Bobby and her face rubbing against each other, making it look all the much worse, which is just hysterical, dude. Do you not like this? When I say you, I'm talking to fucking Brian Alvarez or Brad Shepard or all you Twitter warriors who are claiming that this was embarrassing, claiming that it was garbage TV. It is great TV. This is what sports entertainment is. This is the kind of shit that made WWF in the Attitude Era fantastic. Is goofy shit like this. You need goofy shit like this. It's entertaining. It was great. You have Bobby Lashley coming out to entrance music. You have makeup rubbing off. You have Lana trying to. Lana is probably one of the worst improvisers I've ever seen in my life. I get the character she's going for. She's trying to be, self-involved, very egotistical. You see that a lot in wrestling. But the way she's executing it is very clumsy. There's no subtlety to it. And she's just not doing a very good job at it. I mean, she's just, what did she keeps saying? It's all about me. Lana, Lana, Lana. Nobody talks like that. You want people to really dislike you? I mean, look at Charlotte. Even when she's a babyface, she's a fucking cunt and a half. Just because she has these little things that she does that make her look like a hateable bitch. Or even an Alexa Bliss. Or a Shayna Baszler. They're very subtle in what they do. Lana is just very, very, right in your face. Whenever she talks, it takes me out of it. A good promo is somebody that will suck me into what they're saying and will make me suspend my disbelief and bring me to a world where this is all real and this is all legitimate conflict that is happening before me. Whenever Lana starts talking, I'm like, oh, that's right. this is scripted. I forgot. Because she's very, I don't know, she's just very bull in a china shop on the mic. She doesn't have a lot of variety in what she says. She comes off a little autistic. I don't know what it is, but in my opinion, the less she talks, the better. Or she just needs to really, really take some time and work on maybe open up a thesaurus or something. I don't know what she needs to do, but a lot of what she's doing is very bad. However, that being said, when that is incorporated into this train wreck of a wedding, it makes it all the more better, because the whole gimmick here is that it's terrible TV, right? It's designed to be terrible TV. They didn't go out there thinking, oh, we're going to put on a quality acting performance and everybody's going to love it. No, it's supposed to be a goddamn tornado. And that's what it was. They executed it. They executed what they were going for very well in most instances. So, and then you have the whole Liv Morgan thing, and people, God, I guess I just get so irritated with social media, man. Oh, why are they making Liv and Lana do the storyline when Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose got a storyline next? They were planning on doing a program with them, but Vince didn't like it. Because, were they? Or are you just assuming they were because Sonya Deville is gay and she happens to have a tag team partner? You ever think maybe Sonya doesn't want to do it? Or maybe Mandy doesn't want to do it? Or maybe it wasn't the right time for them to do it? Maybe Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose doing a gay angle provides no benefit to any of them. Maybe they just want to be, sexually generic wrestlers, and to build their characters outside of their sexuality rather than use the crutch of the lesbian angle. You ever think about that? You don't know. There were plans in the works. Were there? Or are you guessing? Or are you just blindly following Dave Meltzer's guessing? Guessing. He doesn't have a source. He is not a fly on the wall in the creative meetings. Dave Meltzer watches the product and makes educated guesses based on prior history. He's very smart at doing that. He's very good at making those educated guesses, but he's not the be-all, end-all news source of what's happening behind the scenes. He doesn't know any more than we do. Get over yourselves. You have no idea if there was a lesbian angle between Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. You have no idea. Stop thinking that you do. You're not in the know. You're a goddamn fan. Be it. Be a fan. Stop trying to be an analyst. Now, let me continue to analyze the product. So you have Liv Morgan coming out. I mean, I think it's too early to really cast any judgment on this storyline. It is a bit bizarre, and, when Liv and Lana had that, their confrontation, when they started to, catfight in the corner, the crowd just died. So, I'm sure they'll try it again tonight, or, I'm sure they tried it again last night, whenever you're probably listening to this. But I don't know how much legs this storyline has. It could just be a thing that's forgotten in a few weeks, but I'm kind of indifferent on Liv Morgan. I have no reason to believe that she'll be good in this role, or that she'll be good in another role, or whatever. So I'm just going to sit back and let things happen and then cast judgment once I have further things to base it on. But as far as the whole wedding angle goes in general, I think it was a smash hit. It was garbage TV in the best way. I could not keep my eyes off the TV. So bravo, WWE. Bravo. As far as other things that happened on Raw, we already touched on the Randy Orton promo and the Lana Lashley wedding. Those were really the two major things. A lot of build towards the Royal Rumble. So, you had Drew McIntyre squashing Hawkins and Ryder. Drew McIntyre has never been more ready than he is now. This dude has the look. This dude has the size, the speed, the technique. He's foreign, which makes him interesting, I think, right? And, we've been seeing in the past few weeks. I don't know if you guys have really caught on to this. So like Drew came on what was it, a year or two ago with Ziggler. And from that point forward, he was kind of just like this stoic, menacing henchman or bodyguard type character. He didn't really talk a lot, and when he did, it was just kind of like quick, badass stuff like, I'm going to rip you apart, or whatever, whatever his deal is. But in the past few weeks, it looks like, he's been a little more, I mean, he's always had charisma, but he's been more like, there's been more humor invoked into his character. There's been more like cockiness and arrogance. And I think maybe that's what he needs to really connect. Because he is hella entertaining, dude. I mean, you actively see him trying to have more personality. And I think it just comes natural to him. And in my opinion, I see this eventually leading to a huge babyface run for him. I think he has natural charisma. I think he's likable. I think he's hilarious. But he's also badass and a credible world title contender. This is what I want. Give me Drew winning the Royal Rumble. Just do it. Not Roman Reigns. We already tried that. He'll get to the main event of WrestleMania in another way. Give me Drew McIntyre winning the Royal Rumble. I'm sick of seeing him as a nameless faction member. I'm sick of seeing him as the fourth man in a faction. Give me him as a single star. He needs it now. He is the best you fucking got. Drew McIntyre wins the Royal Rumble, goes on to WrestleMania, faces Brock Lesnar. Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar. Tell me you're not nutting in your fucking pants right now. Tell me there's not creamy goo running down your khakis as you think of the thought of this Haas fight between Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. That's all I need. And that's all I want. Anyways, sorry, get a little fired up there. What else? What else happened on Raw? It opened up with, KO, Kevin Owens, if you're not familiar. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, AOP, that whole confrontation, and you have Joe coming out to save Kevin Owens as he's getting beat down, basically establishing that Joe is in this fight with Kevin Owens, and they're pretty much going to join forces to take down AOP and Seth Rollins. I imagine Rey Mysterio will get re-entered into the fold eventually. I kind of like this whole deal. I like the team of Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. I think they're they're both badass dudes, but they're also really entertaining. Kind of, along the lines of Drew McIntyre. What was that? That little backstage deal after the pull apart to open up Raw. Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe are backstage, and Joe's like, because they have like the security guards trying to hold him back, right? And Joe's like, if anybody touches me, you ain't gonna feel no fingers no more, or whatever he said. I can't talk like him. But anyway, cool little deal there. We'll see how that little storyline unfolds. After that, you had an Eric Rowan squash, another one. Seems like they're kind of just buying time for this guy until he kind of organically falls into some storyline. They're really teasing the little cage deal with him. I have a strong feeling that it's either just gonna fade away, or it's gonna end up being like an empty cage, and it's gonna be like his imaginary friend or something stupid like that. I just feel it coming. But who knows? Who knows with Eric Rowan? I don't really see a lot with him in the future, anyways. Charlotte and Natty had a great match. Really just kind of a build towards the Royal Rumble, so not a lot of stakes involved here. One thing I do want to point out, because a lot of people do it, the whole concept of just being like, I am announcing that I'm entering the Royal Rumble. How is that a thing? Why aren't people earning spots in the Royal Rumble anymore? It's such a weird concept. Like, can anybody do that? Can Eric Young come out and be like, I'm entering the Royal Rumble? No, he's not going to do that. So why is Charlotte going to do that? I don't know. That's just a weird concept to me. It's been happening the past few years. Just people being like, okay, I guess I'll enter the Royal Rumble and compete for a shot at the title at WrestleMania. I guess I'll do that because I want to. Where's the authority here? But whatever. So Charlotte and Natty, really good match. I guess I guess Natty's a heel now. You know, she's kind of like the Lady Big Show here, where she kind of just flips back and forth incoherently. So she kind of seemed to flip mid-match. Like it seemed like it was supposed to be a big deal, but I don't think the crowd really caught on to it. Natty just kind of all of a sudden started telling him to shut up and was kind of just a little more aggressive. It was like a subtle thing, which I guess isn't bad. You know, it doesn't always have to be like right in your face or anything, but who knows? She's kind of, Natalia is the epitome of who gives a fuck. So she's a great, you know, she's not as good as people make her out to be. I think people just associate her with the Heart, so they just assume she's this great technician, but there's a lot of things that she does that is very clumsy. It's very, you know, kind of like what I was talking about with Lana earlier. Like, she's very not subtle, very cringeworthy. Like, she when she tries to be a heel, she's very, like, just yells. I don't know how to describe it, man. She's just not very good at being a wrestler. Anyways, but I say that even though this match is great, so I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself, but go fuck yourself. Next match, Street Profits versus OC. Basically, the story here is that the OC lost to the Street Profits when the Street Profits debuted on Raw, and even though that the OC lost to the Street Profits, the OC has since then beaten the tag champs, so there's kind of like a who's the true number one contender here, and then basically the Street Profits win this match again and sets up a triple threat tag team match for the titles tonight on Raw. So who knows? I assume. See, I'm recording this as Raw is happening, so here's your hardest part of the ring, Nostradamus moment. I see the Viking Raiders retaining here. Kind of a safe pick, but I don't see the OC beating them again. Actually, you know what? I'll amend that. I bet you that the OC pins the Street Profits to win the titles. That's my guess, and I bet you that fucking happens. But we'll see. Maybe I'm totally wrong. After that, you had the whole deal with Andrade and Ricochet, basically building to a United States Championship match between the two, which I'm all for. Oh wait, no, they didn't, because fucking Andrade won. So Ricochet basically challenges Andrade to a match, kind of making it seem like they're gonna build to a U.S. title feud between the two, but Andrade ends up winning with the help of Zelina, and Andrade will face Ray next week. It feels like Andrade and Ray have great chemistry together, but it seems like once WWE finds something great, they just have to like drill it into your head till you don't like it anymore. Not saying that I won't like this match, but I feel like we've just seen Andrade versus Ray 1,000 times in the past few months. But you had a little wrinkle on here that's for the U.S. title, so I'm not going to complain at all. Just saying, too much can definitely hurt something like that. But regardless, in this case, I am looking forward to that match. I think that about covers it on Raw. So it was actually a pretty good show overall. You know, it's start of a new year, revving up for Royal Rumble, revving up for WrestleMania season. So we're most likely going to see the weekly shows bump up in quality. So Nito Burrito, love it. NXT was a award show this week, so I did not watch. It's my understanding that they gave out awards, but also recapped some of the best matches over the past year, which I've seen all of them, and I don't know, to me, the whole award concept in wrestling is just, it's a little silly. I mean, I guess no sillier than predetermined competitive matches, but I don't know, man. I just don't care about the awards. They just, they hold no weight. I mean, you might see, like, in the next week or two, Adam Cole will come out, and, you know, Mara will be like, oh, here's the NXT overall competitor of the year. And that'll be a little, like, sidebar for the next week or two. But then by February, nobody's going to remember who won awards. So it really doesn't matter. So I didn't really care to tune in this week. As far as the Wednesday night counterpart goes, AEW was actually a very good show. There are certain things that I like about AEW and certain things that I do not like. This episode last week had a lot of the things that I like about AEW. Mainly, I don't like spot monkey shit. I don't like flips for the sake of flips. I don't like no-sells for the sake of no-sells. We did see a lot of that in the main event, but we'll work our way towards that. So AEW Dynamite starts out with Cody versus Darby Allin. This is a rematch from, I believe, Fight for the Fallen, one of their pre-Dynamite shows, where Cody and Darby Allin fought to a time limit draw. So pretty intriguing story behind that. It's basically unfinished business between them. Another little wrinkle they added in there was Arn Anderson becoming the head coach for Cody, which is silly as fuck, is unneeded. Yeah, you can have Arn doing the whole deal where he's holding like a piece of paper in front of his mouth, like they do like on football, like college football, NFL. They hold a little sheet in front of their mouth so nobody can read their lips. He's doing the whole thing like that, which like who's gonna just whisper to him? You don't need to fucking hold it in front of your mouth. But anyways, Arn's out there as Cody's head coach. Ultimately comes into play when Arn, so you have Cody is laying in the center of the ring, right? And Darby Allin's going up there for the coffin drop, and Arn yells at Cody, "Get your knees up, get your knees up." And Cody gets his knees up, and he's able to win as a result of that. And it was a little funny part about that. They did the same spot with Cody on the apron, and Darby Allin went for the coffin drop and hit it. But it's very clear that the commentators were all anticipating that knee, that call from Arn Anderson to get Cody's knees up. And in this spot on the apron, Cody did not get his knees up, but JR and Excalibur were like, "Oh, I think he got his knees up." No, we got to see it from a different angle. I mean, it didn't look like it from there, but another angle looked like he got his knees up. I think Arn, but they didn't. They just called it too early. But either way, very good match. Cody I don't think anybody has turned me more than Cody Rhodes has in the past year or so. There's still a lot of corny shit that he does that kind of irks me, but as far as his style of wrestling and his ability to pay attention to the small details of, in-ring work or promos and his whole presentation, I like what Cody's doing in AEW, and I hope to see him as obviously, he's an EVP of the company, so he's going to be a main focal point, which I am happy for, because Cody and Darby Allin, for that matter, both doing really good stuff, and as far as stars that AEW has built, you can point your finger at those two guys as far as legitimate stars that have been created under the AEW banner. After that, you have the stellar AEW women's division on display. Originally, this was supposed to be a one-on-one match for the championship. It's supposed to be Riho versus Chris Statlander, but from what I'm understanding, Statlander had other commitments, which I don't know if they ever elaborated on what those commitments were, but for whatever reason, Statlander was not able to be there, so they called an audible and made this a fatal four-way for the AEW Women's Championship. Riho versus Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker. It was a solid match, I guess. As far as the bar that's been set, I would say that this match went above that. But Riho wins with a quick roll up. Nothing real, not a real standout match here, but good for what it was. Then you had Nyla attack her after, and then later in the show you had Britt Baker getting mad at, like, Riho was backstage, and then Britt Baker interrupts and claims that she stole the spotlight or whatever she said. What did she say? Either way, Riho retains the title. Looks like, I'm not sure if they're building to a match with Nyla Rose again, or if they're building to one with Britt Baker, and they still got the Chris Statlander match coming up, so I guess it's not a bad thing to have a lot of contenders for a title, but it seems kind of directionless now, so interested to see where they go forward with the women's division here. After this match, you have a Joey Janela. Joey Janela is backstage. This is probably, like, low-key one of the most entertaining parts of the show. It's a backstage interview with Joey Janela, and then Joey starts talking, and then you see this, like, he has this goofy look on his face. I thought he was doing a bit of some sort, but apparently he got low blowed by his ex-girlfriend Penelope Ford, and Kip Sabian. I guess I don't know if he's her shoot boyfriend or what, but my favorite part of this whole deal was Alex Marvez, the interviewer, and what did he like? Joey got low blowed, and Marvez is like, "Oh my," or whatever the fuck he said. But he had this like such a ridiculous reaction to it. Go back and watch that if you want to laugh at something. Then you have Trent Beretta versus Jon Moxley. This is a really good match. It was a hard hitting match. It was paced well. It wasn't just a lot of spots for the sake of spots. Like there was a brutal pile driver by Trent during this match, and a even more brutal paradigm shift on the outside ramp, it was one of those ramps where it was on level with the ring. Really, I mean, you could just hear the wood of the ramp when Trent got DDT'd into it. And and speaking of things that I liked about this match, that paradigm shift on the ramp was the finish, or at least led to the finish. You see a lot of these wacky spots, these crazy moves, but then they don't end the match. They're just a part of the match. You know, they do it and move on. But this paradigm shift on the outside ramp ended the match. Gave Jon Moxley the win. They're doing a really good job at building Jon Moxley up as a unbeatable contender for Jericho, and really giving Jericho a reason to want to avoid him. So good stuff there. After the match, you have Sammy Guevara coming out through the crowd like Moxley does in his entrance. And then you have Chris Jericho pop on the screen with some pre-tape promo offering Jon Moxley a variety of things. Offering him 49% of the Inner Circle LLC, offering him an opportunity to be the executive vice president of the Inner Circle, offering him to lead the Inner Circle with Chris Jericho. So I guess they'd have the same authority over the Inner Circle. So over that 5-man entity, they would have the same authority. And on top of all that, Jericho offers Moxley a incredibly expensive, millions of dollars worth Ford GT. Pretty simple story here. You know, Jericho's this delusional, materialistic, gaudy type of character. And these material possessions, they might mean a lot to Jericho, but the question is, does it mean the same amount to Jon Moxley? And I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Jon Moxley's not going to take up this offer, and he's going to end up challenging Jericho in some sort of way. In my opinion, Nostradamus back here again with you, Moxley's probably going to end up, I bet you this is what's going to happen. Because on this episode of Dynamite, he didn't answer Jericho. He basically said he was going to give him an answer in person. Basically, I see it happening like this. Jon Moxley is going to accept Jericho's offer. He's going to accept all of the privileges of being in the Inner Circle, and he's going to accept that Ford GT vehicle. And then what Moxley's going to proceed to do, I'm assuming he's gonna, whether it's backstage or they like drive the car to the ring, whatever they do, Moxley will like check out the car, you know, he'll rub it down, look on the inside, get a good look at it. You know, him and Jericho are all buddy. He's shaking hands with all of them. And then at some point, Moxley is fucking destroying that car. I see it happening. That car is a prop for Moxley to inevitably end up declining the offer, end up pissing off Jericho. You know, he's going to destroy the car. He's going to destroy Jericho. Then you have Jericho, Moxley at Revolution for the AEW World Championship. Watch it unfold as I described it. So yeah, that's that whole deal. Continuing with the Inner Circle, you have Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes. Man, Dustin does not age, does he? Like, I want to know what that dude eats or what that dude works out with, because he is legitimately better than he has ever been before. And Sammy, you know, Sammy's pretty good too. Definitely still young, definitely still kind of coming into his own. But Sammy's hella entertaining in the ring and on the mic as well too. So this match is pretty good between these two. At some point you have Jake Hager coming out, and man, they're calling him the Big Hurt now, I guess, just kind of ripping off Frank Thomas. Jake Hager is just not intimidating, dude. I mean, I understand the dude's big. I understand the dude's a legit MMA fighter. He's a legit badass, but he just looks like a fucking goof. He is a hilariously stiff goof. Like he walks out, and it's like he doesn't know how to like stand. Like it's like every step he takes is like so thought out. It's like not organic. It's just very, like I said, it's very stiff. I don't buy Hager as a heavy for a group. But Hager ended up factoring into the finish of this match. So Dustin was going through for the Shattered Dreams, right? And then the ref basically holds him off. And then Sammy comes back and hits him with a low blow himself with the referee distracted. Great finish. I love the finish. Just a simple finish, but you have a heel winning with heel tactics. And you don't see that enough. You need a reason to boo a guy. You can't just have a guy, you can't have heels winning clean all the time. So, love that finish. Match was good too. Crazy flip pile driver on the apron by Dustin Rhodes at some point. The obligatory Canadian Destroyer on AEW Dynamite. I don't think there's been one episode without any. And you're going to see even more in the main event. So, I've let my thoughts be known on flip pile drivers and just in general crazy moves like that. In this case, it was okay because the only reason it wasn't the finish was because Jake Hager got involved, so not too concerned in this instance, but would love to see them tone down on it in the future. After this match, you have Private Party backstage. Is this the first time they've had mic time? I feel like it might be, unless they've been on like Dark or something, or just like a promo I might have missed at some point. But that's one thing I noticed with their tag division. Actually, a lot of their roster in general. It seems like they're kind of just leaning on the name that they've built prior to them coming to AEW. Or it looks like they're leaning on just their matches alone, and none of these guys are having ability to build characters. Private Party, all we know is that they come out through a velvet rope, and I guess they party sometimes, right? But we don't know anything about these guys or what their motivations are or anything like that. So it's good that they finally get some sort of semblance of character development here. So they have a backstage interview time. I guess they're in a bar of some sort. I don't know, man. When I see Private Party, they're sloppy in the ring. They're sloppy on the mic. And really, they're just a less entertaining version of the Street Profits, in my opinion, or a less entertaining version of the New Day. Similar, very stereotypical kind of gimmick. And they do a pretty generic job at executing it. So who knows? I mean, they're still early. It's still early in the development, so I won't trash them too much. But I have no reason to care about Private Party at this point. Very telegraphed offense, very weak-looking offense. Not very high on those two, but we'll see. We'll see if they get better. But someone who is not generic is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF has a promo after this in the ring. Basically, what he's been building up to for a few weeks. That he's basically in terms for a match with Cody at the pay-per-view. MJF is given his stipulations for the match to occur. The first one is that Cody can't touch him until the pay-per-view, which is good. I mean, you want to build to it. I like the concept of two blood rivals not touching until the payoff. No interactions, no physical interactions between Cody and MJF only makes sense because it would be logical for Cody to want to tear his head off at every waking moment. So, solid stipulation there. The second stipulation is that Cody has to beat Wardlow in a steel cage, which I'm not sure when that match is going to happen, but I assume in the next few weeks or so. By the way, can anybody tell me the difference between Wardlow and Jake Hager? I mentioned this the other week where I couldn't tell the difference between Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. Same thing here. Can you tell me the difference between Wardlow and Jake Hager? Two stiff, moderately big dudes that pay too much attention to how their hair looks. Neither of them are particularly intimidating, and both of them are just stoic, blonde dudes that don't talk. I don't know. Seems like there's some one-trick ponyness happening here. So Cody versus Wardlow in a steel cage is the thing that's going to happen, which inevitably Cody will win, obviously, because they're building to this match. And then the third stipulation was that at some point, Cody has to get on his knees and get whipped by MJF's belt 10 times, which is kinky as fuck, and I like it. Anyways, good promo by MJF. Solid build to this match between MJF and Cody that will happen at the next pay-per-view, so good stuff here. Like what they're doing. What do I don't like is this main event. This kind of embodies a lot of the stuff that I have not been liking about AEW. A lot of no-selling, a lot of meaningless moves, 3 flip pile drivers in this match. Like, at some point, it just becomes lazy. Yeah, man, Lucha Bros. I mean, I was so high on the Lucha Bros, like, in early Lucha Underground days. But it seems like they just don't care anymore, and they're just going out there to do the most, just get some pops. That's all they're doing is getting pops. They're not building their characters. They're not having cohesive matches with intricate stories. They're just doing things to get the crowd to stand up and clap. And to me, that's not what wrestling is. However, I do like the story they're telling with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Hangman Page is on commentary during this match. I should state that this main event match is the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus the Lucha Brothers and Pac, with Hangman Page on commentary. I like what they're doing here with, Hangman's trying to separate himself from the Elite, and then he finds out during this match that next week him and Kenny are going to team up to face somebody. I forget who they're facing, but basically they're teaming up, and Hangman Page finds out while he's on commentary, and he's kind of frustrated at the fact that he keeps getting teamed with Kenny. So I like the slow build here, obviously leading to a match between Kenny and Hangman at the next pay-per-view, which should be a pretty good match. So liking what they're doing as far as that goes. As far as this main event match goes here, the 6-man tag, the Elite wins, with Kenny winning with the One-Winged Angel. And after the match, they invite Hangman to step into the ring and celebrate, but Hangman declines because he didn't think that he earned the win, so he didn't want to get in the ring and hog all the glory, even though Cody did just that. So I like what they did here. The Elite, it's a weird thing, right? Because they're the EVPs of the company, right? In my mind, it seems like they're kind of self-conscious about booking themselves to be strong, that they're trying too hard to not book themselves as winners. So what that has resulted in is them looking like chumps. But this win right here, and then in the past few weeks, they've been establishing themselves as the top dogs of the company and as credible performers. Which, in my opinion, they should have done that from the beginning. Just build them up as the top, and then have other competitors try to knock them down. So, kind of figuring it out as they go. I think they're learning from some of their mistakes. So, some good stuff in this match. But like I said, man, you had there was that one spot where Phoenix got Snapdragon suplexed by Kenny, and that's such a devastating looking move. But then Phoenix just literally, he gets suplexed and then just kips up, does a roll into a cutter. And then it'd be one thing if he hit the cutter, then just kind of went limp, but he just hits the cutter, goes for the pin, and acts like he didn't just get obliterated. Shit like that I don't need. Shit like that kind of takes me out of it. So, but overall, AEW Dynamite this week was pretty good. Pretty good. Probably one of my favorite episodes so far, honestly. And that brings us to SmackDown. Opening match, SmackDown. It's a triple threat tag team women's match. So you have Banks and Bayley versus Dana Brooke and Lacey Evans versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. So they're kind of pushing forward the whole personal rivalry between Sasha Banks and Lacey Evans, while also keeping Bayley in the spotlight as the SmackDown Women's Champion, while also keeping Bliss and Cross in the spotlight as credible contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships, while also giving Dana Brooke a rub by getting the win in this match. So it was a pretty effective match, I think. It was kind of a whatever, it was solid, I guess. I wouldn't, go out of your way to see it if you haven't. But I like what they're doing with the, I've said it before, I like what they're doing with the SmackDown's women division. I think it's low-key one of the best things going on that show. But speaking of the women, you have Mandy Rose and Otis in the next segment. Man, what a twisted web this weave is. Top tier drama, in my opinion. You have, I guess Otis gave Mandy a cake, but then Dolph Ziggler stomped on the cake, but now Otis is mad at Mandy. I don't know, it's a whole thing. But, this kind of like, I guess, fires up Otis, and then he ends up, going out there and squashing Drew Gulak, which, by the way, Drew Gulak needs to go to NXT, man. That dude is such a unique, entertaining character. He has so much value, and I feel like none of it is being utilized. Go back and watch Drew Gulak versus Matt Riddle on NXT. That was one of the best matches of NXT TV last year. Go back and watch, I don't know, any of his cruiserweight title matches. Go watch him versus Leo Rush. Go watch Drew Gulak versus Tony Nese. Drew Gulak can go, man. And I feel like he's kind of undersized, so he's kind of just being fodder for guys. Send Drew Gulak to NXT where that man can thrive, because that dude is the shit. But in present day, you have him being squashed by Otis, who is basically if Too Cool was mashed into one person. That's who Otis is. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, I guess, but come on, man. Give Drew Gulak some love. After that, you have like one of my favorite parts of the show. You have a little interaction between Miz and Kofi backstage, and Biggie and Kofi they have like a little platter with pancakes in the shape of 2020 with syrup all over it. Miz walks up and they have a little back and forth. Miz gets all pissed off at him. And then Miz, he swats the platter to knock it on the ground, right? But he came so close to missing it. Like, he barely grazed it. It would have made my year if Miz would have just attempted to swat it and just completely missed and had to do it again. He had to swat at it twice to get it to. Goofy little thing there. I don't know if a lot of people caught it, but basically setting up a Miz versus Kofi match later in the show. That must be the most replicated match of the 2010s, is it not? I feel like these two have been fighting forever. But later in the show, they had a match. It was a solid match with Kofi getting the sneaky roll-up win as a counter to the skull-crushing finale. Basically rolled Miz up. And then Miz effectively turned heel again by attacking Kofi after the match. Pretty much yelling at the crowd, saying that they don't care about everything he's going through, with the Fiend terrorizing his family and everything the Miz has given them. They haven't given him anything back, so I think it's good. I think this is a good thing. I think Miz as a babyface has run his course. I think he only has I think that only has so many legs to it. Miz absolutely thrives as a heel. That's just who he is. That's just how he operates. That's just where the most value is gained from him. So happy to see that. Also happy to see John Morrison pop up later in the show, walking out of Miz's locker room. It's kind of an anticlimax. I guess he had already appeared on the bump and all that, and he's already on WWE backstage. So he kind of already returned, so you didn't need the whole him coming out with his entrance and all that, Just a little tease at a Miz Morrison reunion, and seems like it's leading to a New Day versus Miz Morrison match, which I am all for. Kind of a generational matchup. Then you have the whole deal with Chad Gable and Shorty G and the Revival. I don't know if I've asked this before, but Has it ever been explained why Shorty G all of a sudden switched to basketball shorts? Like, they keep saying he's like kind of embraced who he is, but I mean, is he a former basketball player? Was he in Space Jam? Is that who he is? Because I don't get the basketball shorts, and it kind of takes me out of his character. I want Olympic Chad Gable. I want either, the singlet, trunks, or whatever. I don't see why he had to change all that. I don't see why he cut his hair in the first place. I think his original look with American Alpha would have benefited him, and it would have made him stand out more so than this goddamn stupid neon green basketball shorts. But I digress. You have him and the Revival backstage, and I mean, the Revival are like making short jokes, even though he literally calls himself Shorty G. Not to mention, like, Scott Dawson he's probably like 2 inches taller than Shorty G, so and Cole kind of made fun of him because, this turned into a match between Shorty G and Dash Wilder with Scott Dawson on commentary, and Scott Dawson's still like making short jokes towards Chad Gable, kind of in an inarticulate way. You could tell like he didn't really believe what he was saying. But Scott Dawson is making short jokes, and Cole, he's like, "What are you talking about, Andre?" Basically referencing that Scott Dawson himself is not tall, and for him to make short jokes would be asinine. But maybe tell the writers that, because you have people like Mike Kanellis and other guys that are like barely taller than Chad Gable calling him short. It's just another guy like similar to Drew Gulak. Chad Gable has so much ability. He has so much charisma. He has charisma, he has in-ring ability, and he is a legit Olympic athlete. There's no reason why this guy shouldn't be a star. But they're just neutering him with this goddamn stupid basketball jersey and his stupid name and the stupid short jokes associated with him. Glad he got the win here against Dash Wilder, and also glad that he appears to be entering a program with the returning Sheamus, which, by the way, glad to see Sheamus back, but my man literally returned in the exact same way that he did the last time he returned from injury. Do y'all remember that? He came out, like when he debuted his mohawk, he came out, he chased off, I forget who it was, but somebody was beating down on Daniel Bryan. Sheamus comes out, runs them off, and then turns around and brogue kicks Daniel Bryan, turning heel. Literally the same thing here, but with Chad Gable. So one thing I will say is, as uncreative as it is, I think they were onto something back then with Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. But it kind of trailed off because people were chanting, "You look stupid" at Sheamus, and he kind of did. He had the stupid tassels in his beard or whatever. So that kind of halted his momentum back then. But hopefully now they get a chance to kind of have a second chance at building a badass Sheamus who just does nothing but kick the shit out of the smaller guys on the roster. Sheamus is one of the unsung heroes of WWE, and would love to see him get another push, because that dude can go. Glad to see Sheamus back. Speaking of Sheamus, his former barmate Cesaro was in action on this episode against Braun Strowman. I am so glad that Cesaro got rid of the goddamn sweatpant capris that he was wearing inexplicably. I don't know, at some point they just decided, hey, let's throw Chad Gable in basketball shorts. Hey, let's throw these weird sweatpants on Cesaro. Why? Doesn't matter. We're not going to explain it. Just put it on, asshole. Like, I didn't get it. He was wrestling in tennis shoes. It was a whole weird thing. But he's back in trunks, back in boots, looking as badass as ever. So it's like a silly thing to focus on, but it's not. You know what I mean? I can now take him seriously as a competitor. And for him to go up against a guy like Braun Strowman and have a competitive match, I was pleasantly surprised at that. These two hosses it was a pretty good pretty entertaining match. It's two hosses going at each other. No surprise, Braun Strowman ends up getting the win with the power slam, but then gets Kinshasa'd right after the match, which Strowman pretty much no sells, which is kind of irritating, but basically building up to an IC title match between Shinsuke and Braun Strowman. Would not doubt Strowman taking the strap off of Shinsuke here. My man needs something, because Lord knows they do not want to give him the world title for whatever reason. And in your main event, you have Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan versus Corbin and Ziggler. Kind of, your cookie cutter SmackDown tag match main event here. Basically breaking down into Daniel Bryan about to beat Dolph Ziggler, but then the Fiend interferes and attacks Daniel Bryan. They kind of have a little back and forth there, but Bray Wyatt ends up throwing, in a pretty badass looking spot, Bray Wyatt ends up throwing Daniel Bryan through the barricade, and then pretty much locking on the mandible claw, incapacitating Bryan, and then just dip setting out of there. So you have Daniel Bryan laid out, you have the Fiend out of there. So basically, Corbin and Ziggler just start beating down on Roman, and who comes to the save but the Usos? Love the Usos, love that they're back, and love that they're with Roman Reigns. I've always wanted to see like a heel faction with those three, but you know what? I'll take this. The Bloodline is always an entertaining thing to see, and the Usos will bring a fresh breath of fresh air to the SmackDown tag division, which in my opinion is kind of a necessity right now. So good to see the Usos back. Good to see Sheamus back. Good to see John Morrison back. Lots of returns here. Lots of good stuff on SmackDown. I think SmackDown's I've said it before, it being on a Friday, I think it kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but SmackDown's been doing some pretty good stuff lately, so love what they're doing there. And with that, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I'm going to go ahead and tune into Raw, and even though I've already laid out to you a lot what's going to happen tonight, but I'll go ahead and watch it unfold myself. I would greatly appreciate if you followed or subscribed to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Give me a rating, give me a 5-star rating, because we all know I am 5 stars all the way. Don't lie to yourselves. Don't just get hard.